Shandy.
Om
Good morning,
Shanti.
everyone.
Morning.
Sorry to keep you waiting. A delivery came just at the wrong moment, and I ran to the front door. So lovely to see you all. Good morning. I hope you're all well. To see you all in
Yeah.
different countries. Shandy.
Job back again. I need to move.
Yeah, no problem.
Om
Shandy.
Shanti, good morning.
Shandy. Nice to see you, Rajeshwari. Hello there, everyone else. Hello. So good to have you all. Today, the plan is that we're going to do something a little bit different. We're going to watch along with a Dadi Gulzar class, and it'll give me a chance to make some comments in between as we watch the class. For some years, I used to think that I hope when the time comes, Dadi Genki leaves the body in September. And the reason for that was that we have Mama's month of June, we have Didi's month of July, Dadi Prakash Mini in August. And then I was thinking we could have a whole month for Dadi Janki for September, just like we have January, of course, for Ramadan. And then she left the body in March. And I knew that quite a few Dadis had left the body in March in Devon. And then Dadi Gulzar the following year, left in March. And I was thinking that it doesn't allow like a dedicated month in that sense. But then Baba made a very interesting comment in the bold message. I think it was after Dadi Gulzar once, that these Dadis have got a very close connection with each other. And so they've turned March into another January. And I did feel that after Baba had said that this last couple of years. So I have forgotten precisely all of the dates, but I believe Jashoda Mother, who was Brahma Baba's Lokik wife, she left on 6th of March. Then I think it was Dada Visharathan was 7th of March. Dadi Chandamani, Dadi Gulzar, 11th of March. Dada Vishakishore, 12th of March. Dadi Nirmal Shanta, 15th of March. And then I think there's another couple in between, and then Dadi Janki's 27th of March. So we're ending up with March as another month where it feels like the gap between the subtle region and this world is somewhat reduced. And there's some special feeling and energy of this month. So I'm sure that all of you tuned in to the bold messages and ceremonies of last Saturday for Dadi Gulzar. Then on Thursday, I haven't had time to interpret it yet, but they did offer bold for Dadi Chandamani and Dadi Nirmal Shanta. And both Dadis gave us gifts. So Dadi Nirmal Shanta gave us the gift of the power of happiness, and Dadi Chandamani, the power of fearlessness. And then again, at some point, I want to record Dada Visharathan's experience. Maybe some of you have read his little autobiography. And this is the brother who was tasked with drawing the picture of the cycle and the tree, so the early diagrams. And so that's a unique experience as well. And it's nice for us to know our history. How did these things come about? What was the process? So it's good to get those insights. And then Dada Vishakishore is someone who we don't have much material about, but he was such a fundamental jewel within this. And Baba's been very clear, he was fundamental in the advanced party, in the birth of Krishna. And he always had the certainty that he was going to be Narayan the second. And all of the Dadis also all thought that he would be. And I remember Baba mentioning it as well in one of the molis we heard on a Sunday from the early 80s. I think it was 83. And Baba said that he had that certainty that he would. Baba never tells us exactly there will be. He only tells us about Mama and Baba, but this was a brother who was a very close Jew. So this week has been full of those remembrances and vibrations. And Dadi Gulzar was saying in her message that they're cooperating with us. Wherever Brahmins do service, the Dadis turn up. They come to help. So I think it's that feeling. So I thought today we would continue that. Here, an intriguing interview with Dadi Gulzar conducted by Sister Jennifer. I'm sure some of you have seen it before. But if we do a watch along, it allows me to comment in between, and also you can ask questions in between. And before we move into that, over to you. So anyone would like to share anything or ask anything, please feel free to do so.
Brother, you had asked a question in one of the daily journal. Why is it Baba chose Daddy Gulzar and not Daddy Janki? And Daddy Janki has said, it is Baba will not have chosen her to be a messenger, the trans messenger. If that role alone was for Daddy Gulzar, I think it's something like that you were saying. You said we can churn on it. Why wasn't Daddy Janki given the role of a trans messenger?
I don't
Is
think
it
I
like
did say that. I wonder
something
if
like,
you heard that in another class.
I think wasn't it in the training? I think it was one of your daily training this week.
No, not that one. I wonder whether I've said something around the offering of bhog, and when Devi Gentry was in Calcutta, Baba had said to her, because she was not a trans messenger, so she said to Baba,
Yeah.
"How will I offer the bhog?" And Baba had said, "Don't worry, you just sit in Baba's remembrance. Baba will come down and accept the bhog." But I was this week talking about this thing about Brahma Baba coming into the body, like being the Lord of the two worlds. And there was a morally where Baba had given us two things to chain on. The first was, why do we not say the day of Narayan and the night of Narayan? Why do we say the day of Brahma and the night of Brahma? Even though that's the same song. The day and night of Lakshmi Narayan, we don't say that. And then the second one was, why does Shiv Baba not stay all day in the body of Brahman? And so linked with that, I was commenting about how even Avyakta Baba didn't stay all day, and Baba goes on. It would be a few hours. And then I was speculating that perhaps he can achieve more in the subtle region, in the soul world. So I wonder if you heard that in another class.
Maybe, I don't know. I have so much different places these days. Maybe I must have mixed it up.
But go ahead, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, my thoughts on that is that each person's role in the drama is accurate, one, but Daddy Janki's role in particular, because of her mind, it is always turning. It is always, I don't want to use the word busy, but because she's so service oriented, looking to get everybody on this level of perfection. It's not a quiet mind, but Daddy Gulzar, it's just quiet and just allow Baba. While Daddy Gulzar does service on the different levels, she doesn't get involved in the physical, all that much. So that also because of her, I think for me, my feeling also is her level of complete purity in this birth. Daddy Janki was still married and all that, had a child. But Daddy Gulzar has the innocent, complete innocence. So for me, it would have been that reason that Baba would have chosen, apart from the role. Everybody's role is accurate, you know. So sometimes, you wonder your role, and really you've chosen to do a particular, and Baba, each Brahmin has a speciality. And sometimes really so I sit and I wonder at times, really what is my speciality that is of use to the yagya. I do service, but sometimes I try to focus on maybe what it is will bring the most benefit. And I think it's a good thing to do, because then you maximize your I don't want to use the word reward, but your effort gets a better reward, because using that speciality in Baba's service. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I agree with your observation. And yeah, I think that, see, at that time when Baba left, everything was a little uncertain. When Baba handed over, he really handed over. So it was Dadi Prakashman who appointed Dadi Gulzar as the chariot. And then Baba confirmed it. So that's
Mhm.
number one. But there were other trans messengers more senior than her.
Mhm.
But look at the benefit. She was only 40 years old in 1969. And so this long period of Aviat Moritz, which no one had foresaw at that time, people thought that destruction was going to happen much sooner than
Mhm.
it actually has. So if it had been someone older, we would not have had such a
Yeah.
long period of sustenance. So I think there are many factors in how Brahma went. And also just that those daddies were in Madhuban at that time, that was also came together in the drama. Devi Gulzar happened to be there. She was visiting from her center as well at that same time. And so that allowed Devi Prakashman also to. So I think that we can't imagine anyone else.
Mhm.
In more recent times, Devi Janki showed a very good point, I thought, which was that not only is Devi Gulzar that there is chariot, but she herself has made the effort to embody the morals. So there's a added power to the moral when the medium through which Baba is speaking embodies his teaching. I thought that was a very good point. And like, what does Shiv Baba keep telling us? See Brahma, follow Brahma. He's the one who has translated Shiv Baba's values into this corporeal world 100%. If Shiv Baba was a physical entity, he says that he would behave like Brahma. He would act like Brahma. So if Brahma Baba wasn't embodying, then I think again how much impact of Shiv Baba would have been diminished, because people are looking and saying, yeah, but okay, that's the words, that's the rhetoric, but where's the practice? People, there'll be a doubt, but can we really do
Mhm.
it? And I thought Devi Janki's observation on Devi Gulzar, because of course Devi was much more junior, and when, I mean, she'd ever tried to be a senior. Um, the seniors were Devi Prakash and Devi Janki, Devi Chandraman, these were the seniors from the beginning of the yajna. So there's no doubt in her mind who the Maharathis were. So they were running everything. And over the years, I think Devi Janki's appreciation for Devi Gulzar continued to grow, because this stage, this practical stage that she saw. I don't know if you all know that the first thing that Devi Gulzar used to do when she came back from trance after Baba finished his Maharaj, so Baba went back for the separating, and she came back into the body. And Brother Raju, who looks after the Morley department, he can simultaneously type in Hindi. The Avyak Morley's brother speaks quite slowly, so it enables him to catch every word as he writes. So the Hindi copy of the Avyak Morley was ready as Baba finished speaking. It was instantly ready. And the first copy, so he had a printer. He was sitting in front of the stage typing, and he had a printer, and that first copy went to Dadi Gulzar. First thing she asked for, as soon as she came down, can I have a copy of the Morley? Because all of us have heard the Morley, and she is sacred. She has not met Baba, and we have met Baba. So she would then go into the sitting room behind the stage, and for the first 45 minutes, she would read the Morley before she met anyone. And it's this attention. And if you listen to her classes as well, they're basically repeating the Avyak Morley that was spoken recently. And she was focusing on the embodiment of that. So you've got someone speaking who has inculcated that. And that gives power. So like Baba was saying in the messages this week, that people really felt that she was just like Baba at the end. Even the way she looked at us, it looked like Baba was looking at us. So I thought that this was a very good point from Devi Janki, that while Devi goes on, you've got someone just like Baba who felt this commitment that not only should Baba be speaking through, I should be inculcating every word that he speaks through. I must be the example for everyone else of how to do this, of what to do. And so it allows Baba to have that extra power. Back in the 1980s and early 90s, Dadi Gulzar used to say that sometimes she could sense that the atmosphere when that Baba came was more powerful on occasions and slightly less powerful on other occasions. So even though she was in the background, in a trance-like state, she said sometimes Baba would allow her to come and experience the atmosphere in the background while he's speaking. And sometimes she could sense it was slightly less powerful. And she felt that that was her lacking. There was something missing in her preparation that was blocking Baba's vibration. So as you're saying, this focus that she had on keeping her mind clear. I remember, I'm sure you do as well, that back in the day, you were not allowed to talk to Dadi Gulzar for 3 days before Baba came. You went into silence for 3 days. And this was because of this. So she was trying to make sure that there's no variation in the vibration. And hence my comment about Baba the other day, that possibly if he stays here too long, it's impure nature, impure world, maybe his vibrations just don't travel the same way as they can from the subtle region, where there's not the resistance of the human mind either, because it's all happening subconsciously, unconsciously. So I think there's a lot of commitment that Dadi Gulzar has had to making sure that all of us have 100% experience. Sometimes we can just think of Brahma Baba and Dadi as like they just gave their body for Baba to use. And I think we can underestimate the preparation that they had to keep themselves out the way. And then Genki used to, because when Brahmadeva was unwell, then he needed help, particularly after surgery, and things. He needed help with bathing and dressing and so on. So of course the daddies are queuing up to help out. And Lady Genki had the opportunity once, and they were helping Baba with, it was all bucket baths anyway in those days, and it was an outside bathroom. And Brahma Baba had this intoxication when he was bathing, that when he was a devotee, many of you will have seen the Shivalingam, and they pour milk and water in a pot. It's called a loti. And they use the loti to pour the water in the milk. And in a bucket bath, you have a little bucket and a big bucket. So he used to bathe himself, thinking he's bathing the Shivalingam. Shiv Baba is sitting here. And if you look at the Shivalingam, it has the point here with 3 lines. So you've got Trimurti, Shiva, on the front of the Shivalingam. And so Brahmavara would joke that as his hair was losing, he was going bald, he was becoming more like the Shivalingam. So Brahmavara's sense of humor. And he had this intoxication. So when they were helping, Devi Janki had this awareness that she's like pouring in the Shivalingam. And then she asked Brahmavara, well, is there an effect on your body of having such a power come into you? Because anyway, Baba was old and less resilient as time went on. And our bodies are designed for our souls, and they're designed for our souls in the island. So even when we are becoming more powerful, does that affect the body negatively or well? Like, is nature struggling to cope with this new energy? And Brahmavara said generally he's okay, but he has noticed the top of his skull has become softer as the time went on. So there's something about being able to also contain this energy in the body and being able. So once Dadi had said that the reason Dadi Gulzar kept falling out was partly because of trance, going into trance repeatedly, and because of that Dada coming again and again. It was affecting her body. I think she had cancer 3 times, and then other ailments. So I think we have to also appreciate what Devi Gulzar was capable of doing, what her body was capable of doing. Why Baba gives Nulu Ben a lot of credit as a healer, because for 50 years to keep that body going. In the midst of so many, 3 times chemotherapy, 3 other things. So I just think we sometimes underestimate the efforts that both Brahmavara and Devi Gulzar made to enable us to heal the body. So it couldn't really be anyone else, could it? Had to do that. Would anyone else like to come in?
Shanti, that was a good clarification. And I just remember the trans messenger. Mama wasn't a trans messenger. Mama didn't have that ability, and yet she was #1. So I suppose it's our role. She was so I think it was, she didn't need to be in that state because she was in that elevated stage already. So it wasn't her role, but so many souls became trans messengers, even young ones who came into the yagya became trans messengers. So it was like the same scenario with Daddy Gulzar, and lots of the daddies too were not trans messengers. So I used to wonder about that, but then afterwards I came to terms with the fact that she didn't need to be a trans messenger. She was just already elevated as she was. So the explanation you gave about Brahma Baba and Daddy Gulzar, it brought back that to mind, and it's appreciated.
Yeah, thank you. I think for that process of Dadi speaking the Margaret, it was necessary for Dadi Gulzar to be a trans messenger. But generally, I don't think trans message is connected with elevated state. My understanding is that it's to do with some past bhakti. And so some Brahmins, they performed a particular type of bhakti, which then comes back to them in this ability to go into trance at confluence end. But for example, Sister Jayati is a trance messenger, but she hasn't done it for about 35 years or so. So her view is that it's not something which is very beneficial. I'm sure she goes into trance, like if Baba wants to like give some sort of special direction, probably he calls her into trance at Amrit. Sister Vedanti also says that with Sister Mahini, that sometimes Baba just pulls them because maybe there's some administrative task or something that needs to be done. Oh, and how it used to work, that some of you older BKs will remember, Dadi Prakashmani used to verify her thoughts and decisions through Dadi Gulzar. So it was quite common in the 1980s and 90s that Dadi Prakashmani might send Dadi Gulzar into trance several times a day. Like I've seen it myself, like she would just have an idea, decide something and say, they used to call her Gulzar Ben. Gulzar Ben, Baba se puchlo, go and ask Baba, go now. And she'd just be sitting in the office and go like that and come back. And then, so it was like a verification of administration. Like, Brahman Baba used to also do that. So he used to send the translators. And as I mentioned, at some point I'll interpret that visual those experiences of making the pictures of the cycle and of the tree. Again, it was a similar process. They went back and forth with the trans messengers, the Shubhanda. So those pictures are made back and forth. But so there's definitely some mystical elements to all of this. However, I don't think it's the same as yoga power. There are a few classes that Mama gives to clarify all of this. And she talks about different types of vision. So as you say, Mama was not a trance messenger. In fact, Mama didn't have any of those mystical visions at all. Brahma Baba wasn't a trance messenger, but he did have those visions, as we know, at the beginning. But Mama used to talk about different types of vision. So she would say that listening to the morally, that is a vision. That's the highest vision. Because every day, through knowledge, Baba gives us a vision of how things are. Who is the soul? Who is the supreme soul? What is free will? So her point was that the trance vision is not as powerful as the vision through the mind. Then the pictures that have been created through the mind, she would say that's another type of vision. So sometimes we don't call these things visions, and we think that it must be some sort of particular mystical ability to be able to do these things. However, actually, what you've got is this particular perception of vision that has to be widened. And then the most powerful types of vision are really as we experience in yoga. And Baba often says to us, the greatest authority is experience. Once someone feels, you won't take that away. Sometimes Baba says that people don't want to listen to knowledge, but they come to the center, they experience that peace, that love. They remember that. You can give a big lecture, they won't remember your lecture, but they will remember the feeling, the experience. So I think that there's that vision through vibration. Then you see, as we continue to develop our power of yoga, our third eye continues to open. So the alloy continues to be removed, the rust continues to be removed, and that third eye has the power to be able to give us very clear insights into the three worlds, into ourselves. There's one more line, we'll read it sometime. I think it was from 1970, where Baba is speaking to the Dadis and saying to them, what does that Dada see in 1 second when he looks at the children? And he's saying that he can see the efforts of the children, the child of yoga, the child of service, the teacher form, the deity form, the angelic form. He can see all these things in just 1 second. And he's telling the Dadis, you should be able to do this as well. And I had many experiences with Dadi Janki, Dadi Gulzar, Dadi Prakashman, where I marveled at their divine insight. So, like you said, Dadi Janki, I think I've said, Dadi Janki is not a science messenger, but her ability to be able to see the karma of souls was quite incredible. She seemed to have unlocked this siddhi from Baba, where she could look at the soul and see their karmic account from anywhere else. It's amazing. I've heard her, I've witnessed how she could just look and see the trajectory of karma of the soul, and how certain karma helps certain souls. So in this way, with Dadi Prakashmani, this ability to look at a soul and just know what's in their heart, and to give that sense of belonging. So Dadi Janki used to give the sense of belonging to the fact that she would involve you, she would appreciate you. Dadi Prakashmani, by understanding, she knew you. And these Dadis and the Dadi Gulzar as well. So we start off by using the power of knowledge to look at the soul. And we see this as our brother soul. And we continue to practice that. But that then moves into more advanced stages because it opens up our third eye. And these Dadis have reached the point where they were able to do amazing magical things. I've seen that with Sister Janki in recent years as well, more and more. So it's this practice over a long period of time. Brother Atan Prakash of the Toby department in Maliban, he shared with me that he had been practicing self-conscious for a number of years, keeping a lot of attention. And then after I had met the Bhagavan Nivasis in Shantabel, and at the start, I was doing Vrishtis, goes around the gathering. And then as Baba came around to him, he felt this light was coming to him. And since then, his soul-conscious vision became heavy. He no longer had to It was just a natural system. So none of these are trance messengers. It's not, this is the pilgrimage of remembrance. And through yoga, this is Raj Yoga. So if you think about all of the magical capabilities in Bhakti, the different devotees have been able to gain all sorts of different psychic powers, and shamanic powers, and all of these other things. Of course, that can all be mixture in Bhakti, mixture in the copper and iron age. But now, through Raj Yoga, this is the purest anything. And that is telling us that you can sit in one place and you can generate some very, very powerful energy. Came in the blessing this week, you can be a master son of knowledge. And in one place, you can sit and spread vibrations that remove obstacles from people's minds, from people's lives, and you can influence power. So these are visions, right? All of these are visions. One thing that's been building for me in the last few months is the feeling of walking into heaven. So last night, as I was just lying in my bed, remembering Baba, I was thinking about last Sunday's moral, where Baba was saying that children become a child, and the ocean of love had come with trayfuls of pearls of love, diamonds of love. But your mistake is you take the burden on yourself. That Baba here to take over everything, but you got to merge in love. And you got to be the child, merge in love. So, all these points that have been coming up this week about Chit, Baba, I was churning all of that as just lying in my bed and just feeling this impact of the three worlds and how they're all this sort of multiverse connected. And then that has been talking a lot about heaven is going to be like this. It's not like this, but I'm going to take you to a place of great happiness. He speaks about that all the time, but he's been relating different points of that in the last week or two. Just as I was sitting, it was as if I had the feeling of walking into a completely different. It was a completely different age. And I could feel it. I could feel that this is a very different world. And, it's like a world where you imagine the wisest person in this world with Bhakti's wisdom of divine insight and the ability of Manalites with divine insight. So the deities are these beings who just have a different level of wisdom. And so there's this feeling of souls who know the planet's nature, the rhythms of nature, the rhythms of the soul, the rhythms of energy. And that civilization is the one that I was taking us into. So I can feel how, as time goes on, my third eye opens. That same point that I knew before becomes more of an experience. And then that's a vision, right? So I don't need to go into trance because trance is a dependency. But where you develop the experience of every point of knowledge through the power of yoga, that's yours. That's your mastery. So you can then click into that. And Dadi Gulzar is the example for all of us. It wasn't just she was a trance messenger. She was a constant yogi. So I'm not sure she needed trance. She would have had that same stage, even if she didn't have that trance. Thank you. Ranjan, do you want to say anything?
Om Shanti, good morning to all. I remember, once Baba says in the Murli as well, Maya's fog, but that is, in the beginning, Baba every morning after Murli used to take them for walk and foraging that was their breakfast in the foraging, for the fruit and berries. And once they went quite far away, and they were foraging. Then coming back, it became so much fog. There was so much fog, dense fog. They couldn't see and they lost their way. And they didn't know which way to go. And then at that time, Baba asked Dadi Gulzar or somebody. There were other daddies as well, to ask Baba, we are lost. What can we do now? And then Baba said, just go this way, be patient. The local people there in the mountain, indigenous people who live in the mountain, they know their way to even through dense fog. And somebody will come and guide you. And fair enough, there was milkmen or somebody came and they guided, and then they came. So, I mean, even that trance, I mean, it wasn't trance of, well, I suppose we call it trance, but that was sometimes even if you pray, if you remember God, even before Gyan, you just,
I mean, like a touching power.
you ask God, please guide me, please get someone who can guide me, take some good person. Even then God helps them. I mean, I've experienced it quite a lot of time. And but this is how they just do in the moment that, because there was more yoga power, and it wasn't like we have Gyan now so much, but it was. And also sometimes some sisters took vogue. There were quite a few messengers like that, and some started going, in trance. And the Baba used to say, trance is not knowledge, and it's dangerous as well. Halfway Maya can come and can, get lost in those negative thoughts. And it used to happen, some sisters shared their experience that one sister just went and then she was just in her own, took a book. Baba said, oh, you take a book, you just go off a book and come down. You don't need to take so long, because after that you have to have moodily sharing book, and also it is not safe.
And so I think that, it's this thing about being a dependency. And I think the point about the fog is a good one, because one thing Baba says to us is that as time goes on, the Brahmins are going to make this world the subtle region. He says that the gap between the subtle region and this world will eliminate. My interpretation is that subtle region is like this combined subconscious mind of all of us Brahmins. And as all of us carry on with our yoga, remove the alloy, remove the rust, then what's left? Each Brahmin is back in their original form. So you are an angel. There's an angel sitting inside of you. It's just that it's covered up by all of the accumulation of the alloy. So when all the Brahmins have removed all their alloy, then subconsciously they're all unified. They're all in a subtle region state. Like, what do we see from these trance messages? That Baba, they offer bhog for one Dadi, all the Dadis. Baba always has all of the Dadis gathering. Why? Because they reach the angelic point, so they're like subconsciously connected as a gathering. And I think what Baba's saying is all of you have to join this gathering with angels. We've all got to be one combined army of angels. And that then becomes the subtle ego. So then trance is not relevant. So I think as time moves on, this is what will happen. Thank you. Okay, so shall we have a watch of this interview with Dadi Gulzar, and then if people want to come back and share their reflection, we can do that. Can you all see that? Yeah. Is that all visible for you? Yeah. YouTube.
Yes, yes.
तो जन्नत मेरी, तू ही मेरा जुनू, तू ही तो मन्नत मेरी, तू ही रूह का सुकून, तू ही अखियों की दौलत, तू ही दिल की दस्तक, और कुछ ना जानू मैं, बस इतना ही जानू, तुझ में रब दिखता है, यारा मैं क्या करूं, रब दिखता है, यारा मैं क्या करूं, सजदे सर झुकता है, यारा मैं क्या करूं, तुझमें रब दिखता है, यारा मैं क्या करूं.
Can you just confirm that the volume is coming through okay? We'll hear the music.
Yes, we're hearing.
Thank you.
कैसी है ये दूरी, कैसी मजबूरी, मैंने नजरों से तुझे छू लिया, ओ तुझ बिरखाए, तू जो शर्माए, जैसे मेरा है खुदा झूमता, तू ही दिल की रौनक, तू ही जन्मों की दौलत, और कुछ ना जानू, बस इतना ही जानू, तुझ में रब दिखता है, यारा मैं क्या करूं, तुझ में रब दिखता है, यारा मैं क्या करूं, सजदे सर झुकता है, यारा मैं क्या करूं, तुझ में रब दिखता है, यारा मैं क्या करूं. बसदी, दिल दे दिल विच बसदी, नसदी नसदी नसदी, दिल रोवे ते नसदी, रब ने बना दी जोड़ी है. छम छम आए, मुझे तरसाए, तेरा साया छेड़ के चूमता, ओ तू जो मुस्काए, तू जो शर्माए, जैसे मेरा है खुदा झूमता, तू ही मेरी बरकत, तू ही मेरी इबादत, और कुछ ना जानूं, बस इतना ही जानूं, तुझ में रब दिखता है यारा मैं क्या करूं, तुझ में रब दिखता है यारा मैं क्या करूं, सजदे सर झुकता है यारा मैं क्या करूं, तुझ में रब दिखता है यारा मैं क्या करूं। वसदी 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 दिल दे दिल विच वसदी, नसदी 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 दिल रोवे ते नसदी, रब ने बना दी जोड़ी है।
ओम शांति दादी।
ओम शांति दादी।
दादी हम लोगों ने
Dadi,
वो कहानी सुनी है
we've heard the story
जिसमें बताते हैं कि बाबा को शुरुआत में
where they talk about
जब साक्षात्कार होने लगे
that when Baba began to
तो
receive
एक ऐसा भी
visions in the beginning,
साक्षात्कार देखा
then he saw
जैसे
such a
कि
vision
ऊपर से तारे आ रहे
where
हैं
he felt that there were
और जब
stars
धरती के
coming
नजदीक पहुंचते
down,
हैं
were coming, descending from up above and
स्वरूप
coming down.
देवी
And as
स्वरूप
those
धारण करके
stars were
फिर सृष्टि पर आते और जो उस समय बाबा की बातें हमने सुनी है कि बाबा वो सीन बड़ी सुंदर सीन देखते थे कि देवताओं का आपस में इतना सुंदर कम्युनिकेशन, जैसे कि मुख से शब्द नहीं बोल रहे हैं परंतु जैसे कि गीत गा रहे हैं, म्यूजिक बजता। और जिस समय वो चलते हैं वो जैसे कि उन्हों की चाल एक जैसे कि रास के तरीके से है। तो ये हम बातें जैसे कि मुख से शब्द नहीं बोल रहे हैं परंतु जैसे कि गीत गा रहे हैं, म्यूजिक बजता। और जिस समय वो चलते हैं वो जैसे कि उन्हों की चाल एक जैसे कि रास के तरीके से है। तो ये हम बातें सुनते हैं और आपने तो साक्षात्कार इन सभी बातों का
you
किया
have
हुआ है।
had visions of all of
तभी आपसे
these
हम ये
anyway,
प्रश्न पूछेंगे
and so
कि आज
we want to
हमें
ask you
आप
the
बताएं
question, can you
कि
tell us today
देवताओं की आपस में
And that didn't quite, I think a bit of the translation was just broken there. And so Sister Jenki was asking Daddy that in the early days, we heard that Bharava had visions of deities descending like stars from up above, and they had that sort of connection. And you've seen all of these things through visions and trance. So could you just share it with us?
what is the
किस तरह से होती?
communication, how is the communication between deities?
ओम शांति। अभी आप सभी अनेक बार अपने स्वर्ग की इस दुनिया में
All of you
रहे हैं
have stayed in your home of Satyug, have ruled in Satyug for countless times, and you are now sitting here present in the confluence age. So you also remember
कि हम कलप कलप सत्युग की दुनिया में
that we,
राजधानी
every
बन करके
cycle,
रहे हैं।
we stayed in the kingdom
रहे हैं
of
तो सभी
Satyug. Everyone has been in
राजअधिकारी
Satyug,
बनके
haven't you?
सत्युग में रहे
You've
हैं
had the
ना?
royal right,
हाथ
haven't you?
उठाओ।
Raise your hands.
देखो
See?
सभी रहे
So
हैं
if
ये तो।
everyone has stayed in
सभी
Satyug, then
अनुभवी होंगे।
so then all of you must be
जहाँ राज किया
experienced.
है,
Wherever you have
वहाँ तो अनुभवी
ruled,
होंगे
you will
ही।
definitely be
फिर भी
experienced.
अभी जो ये क्वेश्चन कर रही
And
है
so, even then, now,
वहाँ
as
क्या
Gentiben
है?
is asking the question,
खुशी है बहुत,
there's a lot of
दुख का
happiness.
नाम निशानी
There is
नहीं है।
no trace of
तो वो
sorrow,
खुशी
no
की
name or
झलक
trace of
जो है
sorrow.
ना,
And so the sparkle
वो
of
चलने
happiness,
में, बैठने में,
it's
उठने में,
revealed in
मिलने
the way
में,
we sit
वो
and speak and meet
automatically
with
होती
each
है।
other. It's almost
तो
automatic.
जो ऑटोमेटिकली चीज होती है
And
ना,
so anything that moves by
वो बहुत
itself, that's
सुंदर लगती
automatic,
है। थोड़ी
it's very
बनावटी भी
beautiful to
बनाओ तो
see.
वो फर्क हो
Anything that
जाता
is
है।
artificial,
तो उनकी
artificially
डायरेक्ट
created, you
लाइफ
can
ही
see the
खुशी है।
artificiality. But the life of the
खुशी भी
deity
है
is happiness, and
और
happiness is
सर्व
making them
प्राप्ति
move
स्वरूप भी
automatically.
है।
There's happiness
तो
and
सर्व
there is
प्राप्ति जहाँ
all
है,
attainments. And
उस
so wherever
सर्व
there are all
प्राप्ति का
attainments,
जो फीचर्स पर असर है,
there is the impact
वो
of all
बहुत
attainments on
सुंदर
the
है।
features. And so the
और
features
जैसे
appear to be very
होने
beautiful.
चाहिए हम समझते हैं, ऐसा होना चाहिए,
And
वो प्रैक्टिकल वहाँ
And
कामन है।
as now we feel this is how our features should
तो
be,
हर एक का
there
चेहरा
our features are practically revealing
जो
that
चेहरे
beauty.
पे हम समझते हैं होना चाहिए,
What we
वो
think
सब
should
में
be
है।
reflected on our faces now,
और उसमें
that is revealed there.
नेचुरल खुशी है, एक होता
And
है
there's a very
कोई
natural
बात होती
happiness
है तो
there.
खुशी होती है,
On the one side, our happiness is
लेकिन
dependent
ये
on
जीवन
something.
ही
When
खुशी
something
की है।
happens, then we're happy. But on the other side, it's just a
इसी
life of
कारण वो ना
happiness.
कोई जो भी चलन है ना,
And so whatever
वो
their
ज्ञानी और
behavior
ज्ञानी।
is like, it's very unique,
तो जो
very
ये सुना
lovely,
रही
and
है,
Like the way she's answered this question, because sometimes when we think about how the deities communicate with each other, we're thinking about verbal things or telepathy or something like that. But she's talking about the whole body, all of the features of community. And so the values, the purity, the love that we are being taught now is saying that's being communicated. So it's the virtues that are communicated. It's the happiness that's being communicated. So the way she's approached this question, I think is very lovely. And it takes us beyond even the types of communication that we think about now.
very,
वो तो कामन
very
है, वो
unique and lovely. And so what you're talking about,
कोई
Gentiben, is
बनावटी भी नहीं है,
it's very
नेचुरल
common
लाइफ
there.
ही वो है।
It's very common there. In fact, it's not
तो आप
artificial,
सोचो
it's
वो
just a
कौन
very
थे?
natural life. And so
आप
just
ही थे
imagine,
ना।
who were those people? It was all of
तो
you,
आपकी
wasn't it?
ऐसी लाइफ थी,
And so you had a
और हर
life
5,000
like
बरस
this.
के बाद
And
आपकी ऐसी लाइफ
after every
बननी ही
5,000
है।
years,
अभी
your
भी
life
बनेगी, अब
is
ये
going
भी
to be
जाएगी
created
तो
like
कहाँ
this. And it's being created
जाएगी? अभी
now.
भी अपने ही
Where else are you
सतयुग
going to
में
go anyway?
जैसे वर्णन कर रही है,
As we
उससे भी
speak of
ज्यादा
Satyug, even now,
जो भी होगा खुशी का रूप,
whatever we
तंदुरुस्ती
will
का
receive,
रूप,
be it the form of health, the form
और
of
सर्व
happiness,
प्राप्ति संपन्न का रूप,
or the form
वो
of being
वहाँ
full
हर
with
देखता
all
है।
attainments, that is what will be emerged in every deity
Dadi?
in Satyug.
So again, it's such a very useful and interesting way to explore what is communication. So she's saying that communication through form. It will be your form of all the things that will communicate. So it's not communication through language, through the ways we communicate our devices, writing, but it's communication of the form of the soul, the attainments of the soul, are communicated. Like for example, here, if I want to show appreciation for someone, maybe I message them, give them a card, or something like that. But in the golden age, you're saying nothing is artificial. You're not having to create something. That's what you mean by thinking. It'll just be naturally expressed. And so your form will convey your virtue.
कारोबार की जरूरत नहीं होगी
So, Dadi, no need for any business?
Om Shanti.
Om Shanti. Shalimbai, it's hard to hear you today. I don't know why.
So hard to hear me.
Yeah.
Is that any better?
Oh, that's just great. Yeah. You couldn't
Okay.
able to hear you. Very, very good.
Thank you. I'll just, in case it wasn't clear, I'll just repeat what I was just saying. So that is approach this question of how do we communicate in the golden age, not by thinking the way we think, where we communicate through language, through writing, through devices, or even telepathy. But she's explaining that even all of that is artificial, because that is like a medium through which we communicate. It's a construction. But in the golden age, you will be so natural that your form of the qualities, of the virtues, will just express itself. So you will understand each other through the virtues. So if I want to express appreciation now in the Iron Age, maybe I buy a card for someone, I write a message to them, I say something to them. But in the golden age, my form will appreciate. There will be a communication through the form, and that form of every soul being full of all attainments will communicate something continuously.
Well, the kids will go to study at school, but what's the study going to be? The knowledge and gyan continues here in Confluence Age. And so there's no effort in study. It's like it's a game. Nowadays, when they study, they consider it to be a burden. But there it's going to be a game.
और फिर राज्य कारोबार जो होता
And then what about the business?
Again, I like that because some people like studying, don't they? And other people, they don't like school at all, do they? But I think most people, we like our elementary school. Junior school is fun. And then as we get older, it can be more burdensome, can't it? But we get examined a lot in the Iron Age as well, don't we? But Dadi's saying that education is a game. And there's one more leader that says that a lot of education in the Golden Age happens through art. He says that every child is an artist in the Golden Age, and through music and through drama. These are like eternal activities. So it gives me the feeling it's more like elementary school all the way through. And I think we understand things quickly. I don't think we have to memorize everything over and over like we do in the Iron Age.
Of ruling the kingdom. What about all the work involved in ruling a kingdom? And she says, well, it's really simple, because there's no fighting or quarreling that you have to think too much about what to do with this. This one we shouldn't do this here, we shouldn't do that there. And so there's no complications. There's all attainments. And all the vibrations of everyone are very pure, and so there's no need to think about anything because life is very natural.
Again, governance. So she's really answered that in a very subtle way, hasn't she? She was saying that the kingdom, governance, it occurs through pure vibration. So where you've got a community that's constantly in their own pure vibration, then how everything can function is just much more simple and much more natural.
So when they see each other, then what's in their drishti towards each other? How do they see each other?
संबंध से भी देखते हैं
They see each other through the relationship they have,
और एक
because
दो
whatever
को
relationship they
देख
have, their drishti is accordingly.
vibration ऐसा शांति का सुख
But as
का
they see each
आनंद
other, there
का
are also
प्रेम का
vibrations
है,
of
जो
happiness
देखते
and
को
love
देख
and
करके
bliss and
सबका
peace.
वायुमंडल ऐसा होता
That as they look at each other, the atmosphere is created around them. So is
So that's something nice for us to practice. Baba tells us to practice soul-conscious vision. So she's explaining when we meet each other in the golden age, it's like I, the soul, my peace, love, bliss, all of that connects with another soul's peace and love and bliss and happiness. And the two qualities of the two souls combine to create an atmosphere around those two souls. So that's a very nice way of explaining what is soul conscious vision.
Is there greater silence in the communication? And she says, no, there's no silence in that. There's, as is the work, so accordingly are the actions. So let's say they're going to go at school, there's not going to be silence at school. They're going to go in that form, they're going to be dancing, there's going to be other forms. So as is the time, as is the activity, so will be the form.
खुशी एक नेचुरल है
But happiness is a very natural
चेहरे
thing.
पे लाली है वो
There's
नहीं
no
है।
conscious thought that I have to be happy and I have to reveal happiness on my face, but there's a very natural happiness. So when Baba says that it's going to be a natural soul conscious stage, then is that experience of soul consciousness going to be a different feeling? In confluence age, we have to think about it, we have to remember it, we have to make this stage firm. So what kind of soul conscious stage will be there? Here, you have to think. There, it'll be the natural form. There's no thinking there that I have to stay happy. I am happy.
नेचर ही खुश है
My nature is happy.
जिसकी नेचर ही खुश होगी उसको
And
खुश रहना है
whoever's nature is happy, they don't even need to think about being happy.
ये कह सकते कि फिर भी
Can we say this?
सबके पवित्र है
That
सबके
everyone's
शुद्ध है, सबके
sanskars are
श्रेष्ठ है,
pure,
परंतु
elevated,
क्या
are
संस्कारों की
clean.
वैरायटी कुछ नजर आएंगी
But will we see a variety in the sanskars?
राजा और प्रजा में
Well, between the king, there will be a difference between the king and the
प्रजा
subjects.
भी जो प्रजा है
But the subjects,
सारी खुश है ना
they're all happy.
सारी में सर्व प्राप्ति
They all have the experience. There's a wave of everyone having all attainments. And
कोई
so,
में अंतर नहीं होता
in terms of happiness, there's no difference seen between anyone. So will all the sanskars be seen as equal, or will there be a variety in the sanskars?
जैसे राजा होगा
Let's say there's the
तो
king.
राजा ही के संस्कार
So he's
प्रजा
going to
में
have
तो
the
नहीं होंगे।
sanskars of rulership. Those sanskars
वो
won't
राजा
be
ही
present
के
in the
संस्कार
subjects.
होंगे, लेकिन खुशी के
The sanskars of a ruler will be with the
natural.
ruler. And yet they'll all be happy. They'll be natural in their happiness.
श्री नारायण है
Let's talk about Sri Lakshmi and Sri Narayan. What's the difference in their behavior and activity? In there will be no difference in their behavior and activity. Their happiness, their intoxication, it'll be
दोनों ही
the same in both of them,
की प्रारब्ध में
because both of them are experiencing the reward of their effort. And so they don't have to make effort, it's their nature.
तो सब जैसे कि ये भी भेद नहीं रहता कि
So
ये
there's
स्त्री
no
है, ये
division
पुरुष है।
that, in consciousness that there's a man and a woman. Well, there is knowledge of that, because as that consciousness is there in the activity, that will be reflected in the attitude and drishti. Let's say the woman and the man, Lakshmi, Narayan, the king and queen. And so it's going to be the king that's going to sit on the throne, not Lakshmi, Narayan.
लक्ष्मी को तख्त कुछ
So
नहीं है
Lakshmi doesn't have a throne of her own?
वो अपनी फैमिली में होंगी ना
Well, she's going to be in the family. She's not going to sit on the throne.
सिर्फ नारायण तख्त
It's
पर
only going to be
बैठेगा।
Narayan
नहीं,
sitting
वो
on the throne.
सेरेमनी में बैठेंगे लेकिन राज्य के समय तो अकेले ही बैठेंगे
No, at the
आज
time
मैं
of
नई बात
rulership,
समझ
he
रही
will
हूँ
be the
दादी,
only one who sits on the throne.
कि अकेला नारायण ही तख्त पर
I'm not
बैठेगा।
understanding this,
नहीं,
Daddy,
नहीं,
that only
जब
Narayan will
राज
sit on the
करेगा,
throne.
हाँ,
Daddy goes,
राज
no,
कारोबार
only at
करेगा
the
तब तो
time of
अकेले
the
बैठेगा।
business of ruling the
अब
kingdom that he
लक्ष्मी
will
नारायण आप
sit
इसमें
on the
कुछ
throne.
डिस्कस करेंगे कि
Will
हम
Lakshmi and Narayan discuss anything amongst
हंसेंगे,
themselves?
खेलेंगे,
Yes, they're going to have chit chat amongst themselves. They're going to laugh and with each other. They're going to play with each
आप
other.
बनेंगे ना आपको याद आता है आप
Benjamin, you wanted to say something? So Daddy's walking us through all the different. So it's like we're having a vision of the golden age as she's speaking.
बने
Well,
हैं
do you remember you were this?
क्या खुशी की झलक होगी
There's
वो
going to
तो
be such a
अभी भी
sparkle
याद
of
करो
happiness.
तो आ जाती
Even if you remember that now,
आज
that'll
तक
emerge
दादी
itself in front of
आज
you.
तक मैं ये सोचती
Daddy,
थी
up until
कि
today,
हाँ
I
कुछ
was
फर्क
thinking
होगा जरूर
that
अवश्य
there's
है।
definitely
क्योंकि
going to
number
be
one
some
बाप
difference.
कहेंगे और फिर number
Because
two शब्द शोभता नहीं
Number
है।
one is
परंतु
the
फिर
father,
भी
and number
वैसे तो हम
two,
कहते
we
हैं
don't want
श्री
to use
लक्ष्मी
the
first,
word,
श्री नारायण
it's
second,
not
परंतु
honorable to
फिर
use
भी
that word. We say Sri
परस्पर
Lakshmi
खुशी और
first and
मर्तबे
Narayan
में
the second.
हर एक का मर्तबा नंबर वन अपने अनुसार
ये अच्छी बात
The
बताई।
status of happiness,
परंतु दादी,
everyone is equal.
ये एक मुझे नई बात लग रही है
This is a
कि
new thing for
राज
me,
करने समय सिर्फ
that at
वो
the
एक
time of
अकेला
ruling
ही
the
होगा।
kingdom, it is only going to be
उनके
him
साथी होंगे
ruling
ना,
it. He's going to have
जो
companions,
मददगार होंगे
those who are
राजधानी
helping
के
him,
काम में,
who are going to help him
वो
in the
तो
work
होंगे
of ruling the
ना,
kingdom.
लक्ष्मी नहीं होंगी,
But Lakshmi won't be there.
लेकिन साथी तो
But the
होंगे,
companions will
अकेला
be
तो
there.
नहीं।
तो
He's not going to
आज मेरी
rule
बुद्धि में
alone.
एक अभी नई बात आ रही
So now
है
there's a new thing
जो बाबा
emerging in
कहते
my
हैं कि आप
intellect
अपना
today.
लक्ष्य रखो
That Baba says,
लक्ष्मी नारायण बनने का।
keep your
तो
aim
मुझे
of
लगता है
becoming
कि
Lakshmi
सिर्फ
and
नारायण
Narayan.
बनने का लक्ष्य रखना
But
चाहिए।
I think that maybe I should just keep the aim of becoming Narayan. And Dadi
भले
laughs and
लक्ष्मी
says, yes,
नारायण दोनों
Narayan's
ही
number
कहा
one.
जाता है, फिर भी
We say Lakshmi
number
Narayan,
one,
but
two
number
के हिसाब से तो
one
पहले
is
नारायण को रखते
definitely Narayan.
वैसे कहते हैं
So
कि
now they
राज
say
रानी का और हुक्म सरकार का।
that the order comes
तो
from
रानी
the
का भी तो
Lord,
कुछ राज्य तो होगा।
and yet the queen is the ruler of the kingdom. So surely the
वो
queen
तो
must have
समानता
some place to
होती है
rule.
वहाँ।
She says,
ऐसा
yes,
नहीं
yes, there is an
समझो,
equality
कोई
there.
भी काम है नारायण
It,
लक्ष्मी के ऊपर रखता है तो
there are
लक्ष्मी
some
भी ऐसा ही
things
करेगी जैसे
that Narayan will put onto Lakshmi, and Lakshmi will move like Narayan moves. Each one has an authority of their own intellects. They are no less than each other. They have their own powers, their own intellect, their own duties. Each has their own individual duties and powers.
और प्रश्न ये
I'm going to
है
change the topic a little, and the question is now
देवताओं का तो जो कम्युनिकेशन है जैसे आपने बताया
the
कि
communication
खुशी का लेन देन एक
between
natural रीति से
deities is
चलता
like
है।
a natural exchange of
परंतु
happiness.
सूक्ष्म वतन में जब आप
But
जाते हैं
when you go to the subtle
वहाँ
regions,
पर कम्युनिकेशन
then
किस तरह से
what
होता है
kind of communication happens
वतन में,
there in the subtle
साक्षात्कार में,
region?
वहाँ
when-
कम्युनिकेशन कैसे होता है
What kind of
आप
communication
बताते हैं
happens
कि
there?
आज
You
बाप
share with
दादा
us
ने
that
गाँव की
today
माला
Bab
पहनाई
Dada
या फिर आप बहुत
showed
detail
you a
में हमें
garland,
बताते हैं
and
कि
you share
बाबा
with
ने
us
ये
a lot
कहा,
of
बाबा ने
detail
ऐसे
of that this is
बताया,
what Baba
आज,
said,
आज।
this is what
तो
Baba showed
वो
you,
आप
etc.,
कैसे
etc.
समझते हैं कि
So
बाबा ने कैसे आपको बताया
how does Baba
नहीं वो
reveal that to
दिखाई
you?
देता है ना
Well, I just see it.
हम जब सूखे वतन में दीदार ध्यान
When
दीदार में जाते हैं
I go into
तो वो तो
trance,
सामने जैसे
then
यहाँ दिखाई देते
it's
हैं
as
ना,
if you see things
वैसे ही
here.
बाबा दिखाई
That's
देते
what
हैं,
you see
बाबा
there.
आया,
You see Baba
दूर
has
से
come,
देखा तो
you
मैं
see Baba from a
उठा,
distance,
मिला,
he's
जैसे
meeting
यहाँ
us.
दिखाई देता
Just
है,
like you can
वैसे
see
वहाँ भी act
things
में
here,
दिखाई देता है।
Baba here in the same way you see
परंतु
all
बाबा
those
को जो
actions up
आपको
there.
संदेश देना होता
But when Baba gives
जो
you,
आप
has
फिर
to give
हमें
you a
आके
message
बताते
that
हैं,
you then come and
तो वो
relate to
बाबा
us,
क्या आपकी बुद्धि को
is
टच
Baba
करता
touching your
और वो आप
intellect?
समझ जाते
And
बोलते
you
हैं,
understand?
बात करता है
And he
बच्ची
says, no,
ऐसे,
no, Baba talks to
जैसे
me.
समझो
He
बच्ची
speaks
ये
and he says,
संदेश
child,
है,
this is the
इसका
message.
उसका वो जैसे सुन के कोई जवाब देवे ना रूबरू, ऐसे
Just in the same
ऐसे
way
अनुभव
that
होता है।
messages are related,
क्योंकि हमने ये सुना
I
हुआ
have
है
this
कि
experience that
वतन
I'm
में
relating something to Baba and
silence
Baba's
में ही,
relating something to me.
मूवी में ही सब कुछ
Because
चलता
we feel that in the subtle regions,
लेकिन
everything
हम
moves
भी
in
मूवी होते
silence
हैं
and
तो
movie.
जानने वाले, तो हमको नेचुरल लगता है,
Well,
तो आप
जैसे
तो
we,
आपको ऐसे ही
we
लगता है जैसे बाबा
feel
आपको
it's like a
आवाज से
movie in a
बता
very
रहा है।
natural
जैसे यानी
way.
समझ में ऐसे आता है,
And it is a
भले
movie,
बोले
but it
कैसे
feels
भी,
as if Baba is
लेकिन
speaking.
समझ में ऐसे ही
And
आता
I
है जैसे
understand
साथ कोई
things
बैठा
as if someone is talking to me,
है। यानी
practically.
मुश्किल नहीं,
It's
ये
not
क्या कहा
difficult
बाबा ने,
to
ये मतलब ये
understand
तो
what
नहीं
Baba
है,
is
वो तो
saying, or
नहीं
what
है,
did
वो
Baba
नहीं
saying, I'm not
चलता है।
understanding this.
जैसे
No thoughts
नेचुरल
work.
हम
It's
सुन
very
रहे हैं बाबा
natural
बोल,
that Baba
तो
is
ये
speaking
कहें
and I'm
कि
listening.
बुद्धि की लाइन आपकी बाबा के साथ ऐसे
So can we say
clear
this,
जुड़ी
that
हुई है
it's because the line of
कि
your
बाबा
intellect
के
is
पास
connected
जो
in a very
संकल्प
clear way
आता,
with Baba,
वो
that
आपको
whatever
तुरंत
thought
पहुंच
Baba
जाता।
has,
नहीं
it
मैं भी
immediately
तो
reaches you?
परिवर्तन हो जाती हूँ ना,
No, even I become
मैं खुद भी तो
transformed.
परिवर्तन हो जाती हूँ ना, फरिश्ता बन
I
जाती हूँ
become
ना,
an angel
तो
at that
नेचुरल
moment, and
लाइफ हो
so
जाती है।
it becomes natural to
फरिश्ते
communicate.
रूप में
In the
मैं भी तो
form of the
आकारी हो
angel,
जाती हूँ ना,
I also
तो
become subtle.
आकारी को आकारी
And
की
so
बात
a
समझना तो
subtle
इजी
being
होती
will find it easy to understand another subtle being.
I think we're getting a theme here, aren't we? That there's communication in the golden age through the virtues, and that's the language of the golden age. And in the subtle region, when you are in your angelic form, you just know what the other person means, you know what the other angel means. So she's saying that she can understand that better really clearly because she herself is in her angelic form when she goes into trance. And so there's no question in her mind, what does Baba mean? She brings back that message. So this is how the communication happens. It's through the eyes, but there is that natural understanding that occurs. It's like thoughts are understood in the form of like two people speaking to each other.
आप सभी को अनुभव
Do you have
अनुभव करना
this?
है तो
Do you want this
अमृत वेले आप
experience?
बैठ
Then
के एक
at
बारी
Amrit
चक्कर
Vela,
लगा के आओ।
sit and tour the subtle region
बाबा
at
सबकी
least
बुद्धि को
once.
खींच लेगा,
Will Baba pull
बाबा
everyone's
सबकी बुद्धि को
intellects?
खींच लेगा।
हाँ, यथाशक्ति होगा
Yes,
ना।
according to each one's capacity.
जितनी जितनी पावरफुल
To
अशरीरी
the
पन की
extent
अवस्था
you
होगी,
can have a stage that
उतना
is
ही catch
powerful
कर
and
सकते।
bodiless, to that extent you will catch.
दादी अभी संगम युग की दूसरी बात पूछते हैं।
So now we'd like to ask you something
अभी
else about
यदि
Sangam
हमें
Yuga.
देवता
बनना है।
बनना है,
We have to become
तो
deities.
अभी हम किस प्रकार से अपना पुरुषार्थ
So
करें
what
जो
kind of
हमको अभी से ही
efforts
गारंटी हो
should we
अपने
make
लिए,
now
चाहे दूसरे
that we
के
can
लिए,
have a
कि हाँ, ये
guarantee
देवता पद
for
प्राप्त
ourselves
करने
that
वाले हैं।
either be it for
हमारी
myself or for
communication
others
किस तरह
that
का होना
we are
चाहिए?
going to become deities.
नहीं,
So
मैं
what
तो
should our
समझती
communication
हूँ,
be like now?
देवता से भी पहले अभी
Well,
का जो हमारा
before even
स्वरूप
speaking
है
about
परमात्मा का,
deities, I
देवताओं
think
से
that
ऊंचा है।
our form of being a
और
Brahmin is
अभी
even
डायरेक्ट
higher than that of being a
परमात्मा
deity,
हमसे मिल रहा
because
है,
now
हमसे बोल
the
रहा है।
Supreme is
वहाँ
directly
तो वो
meeting us
होगा
and
ही नहीं।
speaking to us,
तो
and that's not
अभी
going to
हमारा
happen there.
ब्राह्मण रूप जो है,
And so
वो
our Brahmin
सबसे
form
सारे
now,
कल्प में श्रेष्ठ
it
जन्म
is
अगर हम देखें
the
तो
highest
ब्राह्मण
birth
जन्म।
in the whole Kalpa. This is the highest
तो आज
birth, the
हमारी
Brahmin birth.
communication आपसी कैसे
And
होनी
so
चाहिए दादी?
what should our communication be
हमारी
like amongst ourselves?
वही होना चाहिए जो अगर हम किससे मिलते भी है
Well, whenever
तो
we
इस
meet each
समय भले
other,
ब्राह्मण रूप में
then
है,
fine, we might be
लेकिन
in the
ब्रह्मा
Brahmin form, in the
फरिश्ते है,
physical now,
फिर
but
देवता है,
Brahmins
ये
are
ज्ञान
angels
बुद्धि
and
में होना
angels are
चाहिए।
deities. This gyan should remain in the
किससे मैं मिल
intellect,
रही हूँ?
in my
ये
awareness.
कौन सी
Who am I
आत्मा
meeting?
है?
What
उसकी
kind
आत्मा
of
क्या
soul is
क्या
this?
अभी क्या है, भविष्य क्या है? वो
What
बुद्धि
kind
में
of soul is this?
automatically
What is the
आना चाहिए।
future of the soul?
और
This
उसी
awareness
भाव से
should
मिलना
emerge in your
चाहिए।
intellect, and you should meet each other with this intoxication.
साधारण नहीं भाई, ये
Don't
फलानी है,
be
फलानी है,
ordinary that this one
फलानी
is
का
like this,
फिर
this one
वो
is like that.
संस्कार सामने आ
Because
जाता
when
है।
you can talk
ये
about
ऐसी
each
है,
other like this,
वैसी
then you
है।
see each other's
अगर
sanskars.
फरिश्ते रूप में
This one's
देखे तो
like
फिर
this,
ये
this
नहीं
one's
है।
like that, and then you can't see the angelic
अभी
form.
बाकी कुछ घंटे की ही देर है,
Now
जबकि
there's
हम
perhaps only a
आपके
few
द्वारा
hours
बाप
left
दादा से मिलन मनाएंगे।
before we're
तो
going to
हम
celebrate a
अभी
meeting
से
with Bap
लेकर
Dada through
कल
your
शाम
chariot.
तक कौन सी
So
विशेष बात
from
ध्यान
now
पर
till
रखें
tomorrow
अथवा
evening,
अभ्यास करें?
what special things should we pay attention to or make
ये
effort for
अशरीरी बनने की
to become
बाबा
bodiless?
जो है वो अशरीरी रूप में
Baba
सूक्ष्म
comes
झोले
bodiless
में आएंगे,
and
तो
then
हमको
adopts a
भी
subtle form,
ऐसे ही
and so
अपने
we
फरिश्ते
also
रूप के स्वरूप में
have
रहना
to
चाहिए।
remain in the
और
form
बाबा फरिश्ता,
of
हम भी
angels.
फरिश्ता,
And
फरिश्ता
so
फरिश्तों
Baba
में
is an
मिलन
angel
होना।
and we are angels, and it will be a meeting between
जी
angels.
दादी, आपको और कुछ हमें
We were talking just a few minutes ago about her preparation for before Baba coming into her. And so she, I think, giving us an insight as to what her practice is of being bodiless, being the angel, and saying to us that should be our preparation too. And I think we have to have that when we're going to meet Baba Dhammatvela, when we're going to set any time in yoga as well, have that feeling that we're going to meet Baba. So that should be my preparation to the day.
ध्यान पर देना हो?
Daddy, if you want to draw our attention to anything in particular,
मैं तो ये समझती हूँ कि
well,
सबसे
I think
श्रेष्ठ जीवन जो है हमारी
that the
सारी
most
कल्प में,
elevated life
अभी की
throughout
है।
the whole cycle,
भले सतयुग में
is
भी
this life
बनेंगे हम,
now.
राजा रानी भी बनेंगे,
Whatever
सब
we become in
बनेंगे।
Satyug, be it
लेकिन
kings
इस
or
समय
queens,
के
we will
ब्राह्मण
become
जीवन
that
का
there.
जो महत्व है
But at
हमारा,
this time, the
वो
importance
सारे
of the
कल्प
Brahmin
में
life
श्रेष्ठ
is the
जीवन
highest, is the most elevated life throughout the
क्योंकि
whole
अभी
cycle.
परमात्मा आत्मा का स्पष्टीकरण है।
Because we
हम
have the
आत्मा
clarity of the
परमात्मा
soul
से
and the
मिल रहे
Supreme
हैं,
Soul. The soul
परमात्मा
is
हमको
meeting
ज्ञान
the Supreme
सुना रहा
Soul.
है, तो
The
अभी
Supreme is
परमात्मा और
relating
आत्मा
knowledge to
का
the
नाता
soul.
है।
So now
वहाँ तो
it's
फिर भी
the
राजा
bond
रानी
between
और
the
वो
soul
उनका
and the
नाता हो
Supreme.
जाएगा।
There
लेकिन इस
it'll be the
संगम युग
connection
में
and
जो
the
हमारे को
kingdom of
परमात्मा का
the king and
स्वरूप
queen and
मिला है,
subjects, but
मिलन
here it's
मिला है,
between the soul,
बातें
the
करना
Supreme
मिला
Soul. We
है,
get the opportunity
सर्व
now to
संबंध
speak,
निभाना मिला
to have
है,
all
वो
relationships
सब
with
युग में
Baba,
मिलेंगे।
to fulfill all those
यही
relationships with
संगम
Baba.
युग है
That won't be present
जिसमें
in Satyug.
हम knowledge
It is
से
now in
परमात्मा से
Sangam
मिलते
Yug,
हैं।
on the basis of knowledge, that we meet
परमात्मा
the
हम
Supreme.
आत्माओं को सुना रहा है, इस
The
समय से मिलती
Supreme
है,
is
फिर तो सारे
relating
कलम में नहीं हो।
truth to us, and this is the awareness that we have
संगम
now.
युग तो सबसे
This
श्रेष्ठ
won't
है।
exist in
एक-एक
the
सेकंड
rest of the
संगम युग
cycle.
का
Every
वैसे
moment
देखे
of the
तो एक
confluence
सेकंड
age.
क्या है, बरसों समान।
If you look at every second, it's equal to
हम
years.
समझो उसको
This
हल्का
is the
कर
value of
देते
the
हैं,
confluence age.
तो
We
एक सेकंड
sometimes
नहीं गमाया, लेकिन एक
lighten,
वर्ष
we remain ordinary about this, and
संगम युग का इतना महत्व।
we
क्योंकि
haven't just lost a
परमात्मा के
second,
रूप
but we
से
have
हम
lost
आत्माएं
years.
मिले परमात्मा से,
Because the
वो
value
और
of Sangam
कोई
Yug
युग
is
में
very
नहीं।
elevated. To meet God
सतयुग में तो
and to
देवता
know
रूप
God,
में हो,
you can't do that in any other
लेकिन
age.
अभी आत्मा
We'll have
परमात्मा
the
के
form
रूप
of
में
deities in
हम
Satyug,
समझते हैं हम
but
आत्मा
now
को
in the form of
परमात्मा
the
मिला है
soul
और
and meeting the
परमात्मा
Supreme,
ज्ञान
I
दे रहा है
recognize
सारे कलम
that
का।
I'm I
अभी
recognize
आत्मा
the Supreme.
परमात्मा
I'm
का
meeting
मिलन,
Him. I'm
आत्मा
aware that
परमात्मा
He's
का
giving me
परिचय
Gyan. There
और
is the
संबंध का
introduction.
सुख लेना वो
And
अभी है।
and I can
फिर सारे
experience the
कलम नहीं।
happiness of having all relationships with Him, because this
Thank
won't
you,
exist
Daddy.
throughout the whole cycle.
आपने अच्छी बातें बताई भविष्य की भी,
Thank you, Dadi.
परंतु
You've
साथ
shared with
साथ
us some
अभी
very good
हमें
things about
किस
the
प्रकार की
future
बातें ध्यान
and
पर रखनी
also
है, वो
about
भी
what
बहुत
we need to
सुंदर
pay
बातें
attention
बताई।
to now at
और
this time.
विशेष तो मैं कहेंगी
And
कि हम
especially,
अपनी
I
स्थिति
will
किस तरह
say,
से बना करके रखें।
you've drawn our
अभी
attention to how
संगम युग
we
का
should maintain
फायदा
our stage.
अभी
Take
जितना
benefit
लेना
of
चाहिए
Sangam
हमको
Yuga.
उतना लेना चाहिए।
You have to take as much
नहीं तो
benefit as you
संगम
can
युग
of
तो है ही
Sangam Yuga,
छोटा सा युग,
because Sangam Yuga anyway is a very small
और इसमें
age.
परमात्मा परमात्मा रूप में हमसे मिलता है।
And the
पहचान से
Supreme
हम कहते हैं हाँ
is in front of
परमात्मा
us and meeting
हम
us.
आत्माओं से
With
मिलता है।
that recognition, we say we are the souls meeting the
सारे कलम
Supreme.
में आत्मा परमात्मा का मिलन
And this meeting
होता ही
between
नहीं।
the souls and the Supreme Soul will not happen throughout the whole cycle.
इस समय का संगम युग का
And so
एक एक समय जो है वो
each
महान है।
moment of the confluence is great,
ये तो फिर सारे कलम में नहीं मिलेंगे।
because you won't get these moments.
परमात्मा
whole
हम आत्माओं
cycle.
से बात कर रहा है।
Look, the Supreme is talking to us souls.
ऐसा भाग्य तो कोई युग में नहीं।
You won't receive such a fortune in any other age in the whole cycle.
Thank you, Daddy. अभी
Thank you,
बाबा
Dadi.
की याद में भी बैठते
Now
हैं,
we'll sit in
परंतु
Baba's
साथ-साथ
remembrance.
कुछ बाबा के बच्चे
And there
रशिया
is
के आए
some,
हुए हम सबके सामने
children,
सत्युग
Baba's
की
children
रास
from
की सीन
Russia
दिखाएंगे,
who
Daddy.
will come and show us a scene
Om
from
Shanti.
Satyug. They'll have a show, present a dance.
And a very nice opportunity to see and hear Daddy. And then would you like to begin by sharing your reflections?
When I first started and Daddy was giving, just now, Daddy giving drishti to begin with. I experienced her angelic form, and as she was there like an angel, really, literally. She was literally like that, and I felt such a powerful drishti from her, even now, because you know, lots of people went, especially this Avyak Lok and her memorial and celebrated, and of course, we had her Vogue message and everything. But just now, even like everybody was saying, that we feel that Daddy is there, Daddy's presence is there. And I felt that so profoundly. And of course, some of them went to Bombay in Gam Devi, where Dadiji was when she was very, very unwell. And all the doctors used to go and visit her and share their experience. That actually, she had more knowledge. She gave us more power. They used to go after being exhausted, like late in the evening, to see Daddy. And Daddy could sense them, you know, that they are really, really tired and tensed up. And Daddy used to really relax them and get to them. And this is how I felt, you know, that really, even now, Daddy was giving us that experience to them, because I said it's good. I was happy to see everyone very happy in Madhuban. And, you know, everybody visited her memorial, all everywhere, but and so this one in Gam Devi in Bombay is called Sampan Bhavan, means the complete state, you know, like Baba says, become perfect and complete, and Dadi is pen and book, and Dadi's vibrations, and they all feel that. It's like her days, whatever. And so I was just feeling that Dadi is really there even now with us. But especially, you know, like Brahma Baba spoke like an angel, and her angelic form was there. And I felt that so powerful.
Mhm. Would anyone else like to share their reflections on that interview?
Shanti, thank you so much for sharing that. It meant a lot because I learned so much from it, what goes on and what would happen in the golden age. You know, we learn things about it, but hearing it from Daddy on a personal note like that, it's really, it was wonderful, and we appreciate that.
Yeah, me too. I think today I understood that it's the language of virtues. That once you're sharing happiness, love, you don't need further communication. That is the communication. And we don't have any dark side to us. So it's not we are some mixture anyway. We are all like an open book. We are all transparent. So there's nothing to hide anyway. And so communication would be natural.
Respect to each other.
But then she was very keen to emphasize that confidence ages high, because you've got the communication of the Supreme Soul. You don't have that in the building. And so for us to really make the most of this time, listening to the morning, connecting with Baba, to yoga, and then we got further insight into the mechanisms of the subtle movement as well. And what she was emphasizing was that if we want to catch others' communication with us, we have to change our flow. We have to practice bodilessness. We have to practice being an angel. And then we will be able to catch what Baba wants to say to us in something other. Thank you. Would anyone else like to share anything? Okay, so I think today's video keeps us in the atmosphere, doesn't it? This month of March, the second angelic month, really, this month. It's like a gathering of angels. It really feels like. I like that image Sister Mahini brought back last week. That all of these daddies and daddies were up in a gallery looking down on us with a crown in their hand. And you know, I think that's that feeling of this month, like a gallery of angels just looking down, giving us help and cooperation. And then Dadi was saying in her message just last week that at this time, but Dada is invoking the angelic complete form of all of the Dharma, and is doing it very intensively. So we've got to catch But Dada's invocation. But Dada's pulling us upwards, pulling us back to our purity, back to our subtlety. So let's just let that energy take us forward, take us up. Okay, great to see you all. Thank you all for attending today. And next week we'll do a watch along with Dadi Janki, and we'll now do that for a couple of weeks. So we'll now be preparing for Dadi Janki's Day, which is Monday the 27th. I don't know if there will be a transmission next weekend or something to do with that. If there is, I'll let you know. But otherwise, the actual day would be the Monday. So you might want to try and keep that in mind, or if you can. Put that in your diary in case there is a travel.
And the next day on Tuesday is the last meeting of the season.
There's a video meeting of
Video
on
last
Tuesday,
meeting
the
with
28th.
Dadi.
I'm Shanti. Have a great week, everyone.
Shanti, thank you so much. Have a great weekend too. Okay, bye-bye.
Shanti. And also greetings to those of you on YouTube. Shanti.
Om Shanti.